Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, the rumor is Josh Allen is good at football. What are your thoughts on that topic?
The rumor is the Buffalo Bills are also good at football, and they still, for the fifth time, run the AFC East. And I don't care what the haters say, Greg. I don't care at all. I'm still going to celebrate these. I know they haven't won a Super Bowl yet. You're not going to make me. I survived the drought. I'm going to enjoy every single one of these that comes my way.
Every single second. You were joining us because the Buffalo Bills dominated the San Francisco 49ers 35-10 coming out of the bye. Sean McDermott is now 8-0 after a bye in his career. The Bills are 10-2, the number 2 seed in the AFC. They sit
7-game win streak.
Yeah, 7-game win streak, 1 game behind the Kansas City Chiefs, but with the head-to-head matchup in hand. Things are absolutely rolling. For anyone who watched tonight, it was just a gorgeous aesthetic. The snow was coming down like crazy. I know you and many others who lived in the area shared the ridiculous phenomenon that is lake effect snow, where you had 2 feet dumped in the 24-hour period along that band of snow, which unfortunately for us included the stadium.
I was gonna say maybe like another 6 inches down there tonight. I don't.
yeah, even more. But then towards your house and others who lived in the north towns, was barely a sprinkling. So just wild that it was there. It was a game where they had to use the blowers between each timeout and each break in the game to even be able to see the yard lines. A lot of estimates in the yardage that was there. Yeah. And many of those games turn out to be, kind of duds from a statistical standpoint, but instead the Bills, at one point before they pulled the starters, were at 9.2 yards per play. We're just dominating in every aspect of this game. It was really, really an incredible performance.
Yeah, this was a tough night for the people that cry about needing a dome, and that this Bills team needs a dome, and Josh Allen needs a dome. I've said it for years, Greg. Josh Allen's weatherproof, and I do believe in it being a benefit. Maybe not against every team. I think there are some teams that can travel and play in the weather, but you saw a clear advantage for Buffalo, really, pretty much from the start, in their footing and the ability to play in this. And obviously, I think it is true. Josh Allen's weatherproof, man. He is built like a tight end. He can throw as good as any quarterback we've ever seen. He can do it in the weather. The games that the Bills have lost in the weather, it was because they didn't early enough in those games have confidence in Josh Allen to do Josh Allen things, which he can do in any weather condition. And so I know Josh prefers the dome himself, but tonight was a perfect display of he doesn't need it. The Bills don't need it. And when a team comes in that isn't prepared for it, they can dismantle them. And it looked absolutely beautiful. There's something about the lore of football and weather is associated to that. People are going to remember this game. People that went to this game tonight are going to remember being there at this game for all the crazy stuff Josh Allen did, but also the weather that they had to suffer through and go through, and the throwing snowballs in the air. And I loved on the James Cook touchdown, Deion Dawkins comes sliding in and Alec Anderson showing his belly off in the snow. Like this, you don't get that in a dome. It's a homogenized aspect of the game. And we need to preserve the lore of football and maintain football in the weather and elements like we get here in Western New York. So
it was amazing. I got my shirt came in just in time. This was actually one of those quick print moment shirts that from when just in the Chiefs game when Dawson Knox and Quentin Morris came over and crowned Josh Allen.
There'll be another one tonight of Josh
another
jumping.
One with that dive that was unbelievable into the end zone. We'll talk about some of those ridiculous plays. Tonight, Josh Allen was the first quarterback in NFL history to throw, rush, and catch a touchdown in the same game.
Is that like the cycle of football?
Only the 14th player in NFL history. It had been 12 other running backs, 1 receiver, and now Josh Allen is the first quarterback to ever do that. And he threw and caught a touchdown on the same play, which has only happened 4 times in NFL history. he, in this ridiculous snow, went 13 of 17 for 148 yards, 8.7 yards per carry, 2 passing touchdowns. So it's still being able to have a 76% completion percentage. He also ran the ball 3 times for 18 yards and a touchdown. But the run game was, phenomenal in this game. And you saw, we talked about it in the Discord channel with our awesome One Pass members, that just the split second of the offense knowing where they were going was such an advantage for them that the defense has to react.
Yeah.
And just having that one split second advantage was a big advantage for both teams, because the 49ers were certainly rushing the ball very well also. But the Bills defense had that bend but don't break flex in the red zone, and the Bills on the 49ers defense converted for touchdowns 5 times when they were down there. And that was, it's, obvious to anyone who watched the game or sees the score that was the difference of the game. But it really was, because both teams were in the red zone 5 times, and the Bills came out of it with 5 touchdowns, and the 49ers came out of 5 red zone trips with 10 points total. So it very literally was the difference of the game.
Yeah, I've been preaching it all year, and I feel like I'm vindicated again that yards don't particularly matter as a standalone isolated stat, right? They rushed for 5.7 at halftime. The 49ers were at 7 yards a carry, and they only had 3 points to account for it. So I don't care what happens in between the 20s. I care about stopping points. I don't, you can build up all the yards you want. If you're stuck, even if they made the field goal that they missed, if you're only getting 6 points on all those yards, go for it. I don't care. I don't care if they're explosive plays. I don't care what they are. You can go ahead and get all the yards you want in between the 20s. But if you're not going to score, you're going to have a problem, because the Bills are going to score 30 plus. And they're going to do it consistently here on a stretch of 7 games now, scoring 30 plus. Another thing on that, though, Greg, you talk about slippage and stuff like that. I am very interested to see PFF grades on this game. And I want to kind of talk to somebody at PFF, because I don't know how you grade defenders in this game. There's a lot of missed tackles, and like some of them were on the guys, but it's just a sloppy game. Footing's bad. Like, are they going to grade them on a curve of the weather? Probably not. They're probably just going to use their system of grading and just get, so you're going to probably see a lot of Bills defenders with really terrible grades. And some of them probably deservedly so, but not all of them. And some of those missed tackles that we saw still slowed guys down, didn't allow them to break the big time runs. But that'll be an interesting thing, is like, do they account for that when they're doing this grading system? Because players are judged whether or not we think the grades are fair. They are judged on this stuff. And a game like this is a real anomaly into those grades. And my guess is they don't account for the weather in that.
Yeah, nice shout out by RJ there in the historic element tonight. If I remember the numbers right, Josh got his 245th. I believe later on he got his 246th and maybe 247th touchdowns on the night to break the franchise record as the all-time leading scorer. Jim Kelly previously was the all-time leader, and he did it in 160 games, and I believe Josh did this in his 104th game, if I remember correctly. So just unbelievable to see. He's also now very clearly with the most touchdowns in NFL history by any player in their first 7 years in the league. He's just he's
the only quarterback in history.
Wild. The meme of Josh Allen is the only quarterback in NFL history is very fitting, because every week there's another. Well, no one has ever done this before. And Nick Lowe here talking about glad to see Josh Allen having a Hall of Fame play. In the short term, before we get to Hall of Fame candidacy and other things like that, when Josh Allen wins the MVP, because he 100% is going to win the NFL MVP tonight. It's a narrative award. It's humans who choose and decide to vote. This kind of game after the Kansas City game that everybody watched, now you compound that with this kind of game on Sunday Night Football with the aesthetic, and then that crazy iconic play of Amari Cooper. Like, Josh threw a quick pass to Amari Cooper that was behind him, a ridiculous awesome snag by Cooper to pull it in. In fairness, his forward momentum was probably stopped, but it was such a weird, like the footing was so weird that they kind of let a lot of plays keep going. Um, and then Amari Cooper with the heads up, just kind of vision to flip the ball back to Josh because he was running and then Josh ran to the pylon, dove, and there's literally a perfect Superman picture out there of Josh extending the ball, and his entire body is completely vertical or horizontal off the ground, like his legs perfectly straight, his arm reaching out, floating along the air as he's reaching out for the touchdown. And that is the play that they're going to show when he wins. That's going to be the first play that comes up when he wins the NFL MVP. It's unbelievable to be able to do it.
Yeah,
How
I
about
think I already thought he solidified it. This just puts the cap on top of it for him. And I tweeted it out too. I don't know that he will, but I think Sean McDermott also deserves to be in consideration, at least getting votes for Coach of the Year. When we talk about narratives, the narrative surrounding this team was that this was the worst football team that has surrounded Josh Allen since he arrived, which was never true, right? Like we knew it wasn't as bad as maybe the narrative was surrounding, but that was the narrative, and that was in the media and the people that vote for this stuff. That was what they were saying. And for this team to be 10-2, which has never happened in franchise history, and winning their fifth AFC East title, which has also never happened in NFL history, and doing it this early, which teams haven't done in 15 years or something like that. Like, they are setting records. They're doing it at a record pace. And yes, a lot of that's Josh Allen, and he should get the MVP for that. But it's not all Josh Allen. This defense is also holding teams and not allowing points and allowing this team to get out to big leads. And they're doing a really good job. And Sean McDermott is coached up some players that people didn't know about and developed players and stuff like that. And so I mean, O'Connell will probably be up there, but I think Sean McDermott, in my opinion, it's like him, Dan Campbell, O'Connell. Those are the three right now for me that should be considered for Coach of the Year. And he's already been robbed once, so I'd love to see him get it this time around.
Shout out to our guy Patton. He's always in here supporting us, and I love any Chappelle Show reference. So Bills AFC championships consecutively. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth, 5. Love to see it. Appreciate you very, very much. It's just crazy to see this. And Cliff talking about the history here. This is better than the 87 and 95 teams. I was there. It's crazy. It's, there's still results needing to be accomplished.
Sure.
But I got into that with someone. I apologize. I don't remember which individual follower it was. But someone I enjoy talking with on Twitter, and like taking away that none of this, I know what it was. It was in comment on this shirt, and that like crowning him is dumb because, unless you win a championship, it doesn't matter. And I don't get me wrong. Of course I want to win a title. I want it very, very much. I want, the whole one before I die, all the different people in our lives and our families who didn't get to watch a championship. We want that for all of them. We want that for us. Of course we want that. But sports is entertainment. I am entertained as much as I could possibly be. This is amazing. I won't deprive myself of that enjoyment preemptively, skeptically, just in case it doesn't finish the way that I hope it does. That doesn't make any of this any less entertaining. Tonight was awesome. The Chiefs game was awesome. This is fantastic. I'm going to enjoy this, and nothing is going to stop me from enjoying that as we go. Hopefully, all the awesome things. Tim, that was in here earlier, talking about 2 weeks from now is a Super Bowl preview of Bills Lions, would be a perfect Super Bowl for America, where everybody wins, no matter what. An amazing fan base that deserves a championship would be there. I have lobbied. I work with a couple of really passionate Lions fans. I've already pitched them that, hey, the Lions have never made it to a Super Bowl in franchise history, so you making it to one is a huge achievement and would be awesome. And we can win it because we've been to 4 and lost them all. So like everybody can be happy and everybody can win. They didn't agree with that logic, but I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, I'd prefer not to do the Lions. I get all that.
They are
I
similarly a wagon. Like I
yeah,
think Field Yates called the Bills a wagon tonight, and the
yes.
Lions are pretty freaking scary.
Yes, I want to get rid of that term, but yes, they are all wagons, and yeah, I don't want to play a wagon in the Super Bowl.
No,
But you're right. I cannot stand when people live in binary existences
no.
of like if because they haven't won a Super Bowl, nothing else matters. Like, cool, we all want the same thing. We're all on the same page. We get it. But I am going to enjoy every single moment, dude.
Yeah.
I grew up in New England, and I had to sit through Patriots dynasty and all that success. And in that time, like I always think back to 20 something year old me that was sitting at a bar watching the Bills get beat and my heart broken in November and out of the playoffs and trying to figure out the math to see if we could even be mathematically in it for the last 6 games of the season and looking at mock drafts. And I think of that poor soul and his soul just sucked out of him for 17 years. And I owe it to that version of me to enjoy and savor every moment of this version of me that gets to watch Josh Allen and gets to watch this team. Yeah, maybe not win Super Bowls, but dominate the AFC East and be a 2 seed sitting 1 game back from the current dynasty Chiefs, who are 11-1. Like all these things are fantastic. And yeah, maybe they don't meet the ultimate goal, but man, I'm going to enjoy the ride while we're here.
Yeah, I'm not going to keep ranting about this. Rings culture is a disease. There's not 31 failures and one entertained fan base each year. Just not,
Terry Pagula is very
real.
happy right now.
Yeah, Terry Pagula is super happy.
Yes.
All right. Let's get back to the awesome game that was tonight. As TP said here, 6 straight games with 30 plus points. Unbelievable.
On that one, dude, Greg, I got to apologize to some people because all offseason, there were people out there that were just score 30 points a game. Like that's the path to winning a bunch of games. And I was like, guys, pump the brakes. Like nobody rattles off scoring. Nobody's doing that. Like maybe one team every 3 years is dropping 30 points a game, right?
Multiple seasons don't have anyone scoring 30 points.
Correct. I was wrong. All those knuckleheads were right. Congratulations.
Random thing that you were wrong about, and I was also wrong about, but you were more vocally wrong about it, so I'll rub it in with you. Did Matt Milano play every snap in this game?
He did.
Up until like they pulled the starters, like he just was in and played the entire game.
To be fair, I wanted to be wrong about all of that, and I prefaced like I want to be totally wrong. I really thought they'd be more conservative. I will say,
I for sure thought we'd see a rotation with Jordan Williams.
Really, yeah, really difficult to judge his play because of the weather and the conditions. Like I said earlier, like I don't know how PFF's going to grade these guys. Like it didn't look great in the line and second level there for much of the first half, but how much of that is weather? Again, he's trying to get his game legs underneath him. So yeah, I was definitely wrong in the usage, and good for him coming back all the way and giving the coaches the trust to put him back in a game like this where the weather was bad. We saw what happened with McCaffrey coming back from injury and playing in these types of conditions. It's terrible to see. Hope that Milano stays healthy. I obviously we're not hearing Sean McDermott. It seemed like the Bills got out of this game healthy. Josh had his hand hurt for a little bit.
Maybe.
Ingram.
Yeah, Josh for sure hurt his hand again. I don't know how significant or how injured it is, but he hurt his hand, his non-throwing hand for sure. Jamarcus Ingram seemed to be banged up pretty good on the one Debo return.
Yeah.
I've got great news. The Bills are not scoring 30 points a game. It's only 29.6. So you're totally good.
Yet. Yeah.
I mean, 6 straight. At some point, we'll pull that average.
The average will go up.
We talked earlier about, obviously Josh Allen is going to be the centerpiece of this game and the coverage, the MVP, all the national media. That's what they're going to talk about because this was ridiculous. However,
James Cook should probably be
the running game. Everybody. So Josh Allen 6 yards a carry. Curtis Samuel took a jet sweep for 7 yards a carry. Ty Johnson 5 for 28 at 5.6 yards a carry. Ray Davis 11 carries for 63 yards at 5.7 yards a carry. James Cook 14 carries for 107 for 7.6 yards per carry. And real quick, I'm going to remove the Mitch Trubisky kneel downs.
I was going to say at half for Cook at half, it was 9 rushes for 100 yards at 11.1 a clip. So he had the 3 rushes in the
some
second
of the
half.
Milking, the clock killing at the end hurt some of the averages per se. Yeah. But if you remove the kneel downs, the team ran for 6.6 yards per rush without those kneel downs. So
Yeah, I bet if you pulled out some of the sneaks too, and like some
yeah,
of that
yeah.
short yardage stuff, it looks even better.
Yeah, it's a really, really fantastic performance. Kudos to the offensive line. That's what you want in a situation like this. You want to have the option to pivot to that power run game approach. Um, it was, something that they executed perfectly. And even when it looked like we might be at one point of literally all rushes and no passes, they executed some really nice play
Mhm.
action plays off it. And like you've brought up multiple times, like Josh Allen in the win game, Josh is unaffected. Like he hit some ridiculous downfield throws in this game. And you heard, Chris Collinsworth kind of giggling and laughing in awe of the one throw that he made. I think it was to Knox. That it was just he ripped it down the field, and one of those things where like there's very few humans on earth who can make that throw in that situation in those conditions,
Go look at what
and to
Brock
make that
Purdy.
kind of throw.
Like Brock Purdy, I know he's coming off an injury, but they said he was good to go and ready to go, and that Shanahan wasn't going to play him unless he was close to 100%. But he doesn't have the type of arm to cut through that.
No,
Again, this is
no.
Buffalo's the weather in Buffalo, especially when you have a weatherproof quarterback, and the team knows that now. Like, and they could press a little bit in some of those moments. Even that touchdown to Hollins, dude, that ball was on a frozen rope. Like
Yeah.
Hollins was covered and he just put it right out there in these types of conditions. It's really special to watch. Not a lot of guys in the league. It's probably just him and Mahomes can throw the ball around in these types of conditions like that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to do. Ooh, Mickey, I guess I'm assuming you heard that after the game. Maybe being reported that CMC might have suffered a season-ending PCL injury. That'd be a shame if that's the
That's
case.
a shame. I honestly thought it was maybe Achilles again, so that's
Yeah,
probably better. I don't know.
the recovery would be less damaging to him for the 2025 season if it's PCL than if it's Achilles.
Yeah,
So obviously, tonight this is a diminished, banged up version of the 49ers team. I'm not going to assume that we wouldn't have beat them if they were full strength, but I also don't think it would have been 35-10 if they were full strength. Like, that's a very talented
sure.
team. You talk about Trent Williams and Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa. Those are guys who would make a difference in games like this. I don't think we would have hung 35 on them with some of the guys missing.
Yeah.
But the Bills played in the same conditions. The Bills are short people. We were out, multiple players as well. So it's just the way this game goes. Next man
And
up. That's the way this game works.
to some extent, I think the game, at least from the start of the game, played out sort of how the season has played out for the San Francisco 49ers. They've been good. Like their DVOA is good, their EPA is pretty good, but they get into the red zone and it's on both sides of the ball and they fail. And that's where we saw the Bills start to pull away in the game. And then obviously the weather conditions didn't help them. And there was some sloppy play due to the weather conditions for the 49ers. But settling for field goals in this type of weather, not a great recipe to try to keep up with the team that's scoring touchdowns and is efficient in the red zone and stopping you in the red zone. And so that's something that even when healthy, I know they haven't been healthy all year, but even when they had a lot of their players in the lineup, they were still struggling in both the red areas. And I think that ultimately maybe they would have scored more, maybe the Bills score a little less. But I think that still would have probably played out throughout the game.
Yeah. From a receiving standpoint, 8 different guys caught a pass. 9 were involved in a receiving play because Josh technically didn't get a catch. So 9 different guys recorded receiving yardage. 8 guys caught a pass. I thought that Mac Hollins is another one. He's one of those Gregory Rousseau stat lines where like it's going to show he has 1 catch for 7 yards. He was awesome in this
Yeah.
game. He had you reference a lot, and Eric always used to point out how we used to use Gabe Davis as a second tight end. Mac Hollins is playing tight end most of this game, basically other than his touchdown catch.
Mm-hmm.
He was playing on the wing most of the game and had awesome run blocking. He had the key block on the James Cook 65-yard touchdown run. Dawson Knox and Quentin Morris both playing really well. Zach Davidson was out there getting some good reps in. Obviously, Amari Cooper made that awesome catch and had the heads up lateral to be involved in a great highlight play. like that. And Khalil Shakir, again, with the much needed touches in some critical spots. So no one was going to have awesome receiving statistics in a game like
Yeah.
this where you were only going to throw so many times throughout the game. But, overall consistent production from everybody to chip in.
Yeah, and what we didn't get from Matt Collins though was his patented DPI or defensive holding
Yeah.
against him. So a little disappointed, Mac. You got to keep that going here. But yeah, again, I'm going to be interested to see how they grade some of those drops in these conditions. Like Khalil Shakir, somebody said here in the chat,
Might have
Amari,
had his first drop of the season.
that 4 for 7, rest in
Yeah.
peace to his percentages. Like, yeah, a little bit. It'll take a dip, but I wonder how they grade out considering the conditions, because he also made some pretty crazy catches. Like, I don't know that the drops are on receivers necessarily when it's in bad conditions like this.
I would not. I don't think any of these plays tonight should be graded as a drop. And his catch percentage, luckily 7 is not a big enough
Right. Yeah.
number for the sample size. He'll still probably lead the league in
The
catch
volume's
percentage.
really good. Yeah.
Even though it is obviously going to bring it down a little bit because 4 to 7 is not going to have the percentage that he needs to be able to stay up in the 80s where he was. It might drop into the high 70s or low 80s. Before we switch over to the defense, I'm actually going to shout out some of the special teams guys. Brandon Condriton's, return touchdown doesn't technically count, but I saw it. They can't take that away.
Yeah.
From
I
what
called
we
that on
watched
the air
happen.
raid, by the way, in the air raid chat. I said their special teams wasn't good, and with the weather, I was like, man, we're gonna get one. And I'm a little bummed that the refs called it back because I really wanted to. I love telling people that I'm right, and I was gonna do it.
It is one of your favorite things. And real ticky tack call on Cole Bishop, like that was just a block. It didn't go outside the frame. He didn't pull the jersey. Of course he grabbed the chest plate, but every block you grab the chest plate. That was, I thought, kind of ticky tack, whatever. Sam Martin was fantastic
Great
tonight.
game.
Just getting off each of his kicks is a huge win. Shout out to him and Reed Ferguson that we executed 6 snaps for kicks on the 5 extra points and the 1 field goal. And I don't count any of that miss against Tyler Bass. He was 5 for 5 on the extra points. He made every single one. Yeah. And he attempted a 48-yard field goal in these conditions that he put like 3/4 of the way up the upright, just barely wide left from where they were at. That was a really good kick. Some of the guys in the Discord channel were a little concerned, like, hey, is this worth risking it? You don't want to plant. He's had a really good game. He was 5 for 5 at that point. He had made every kick. Do you want to plant a seed? And I think the way he executed and kicked that in those conditions where you literally couldn't even see the ball, you couldn't
even see the goalposts.
Correct. Like we just kind of had to trust the referee that he missed it. I think that was a very, very good game. So strong special teams. The one area was, one of the biggest, most impactful plays the Niners had was Debo's kick returns. Yeah. But, it's really hard in these conditions when somebody gets ahead of steam. And I think Bass was trying to kick it out of the end zone. You just physically couldn't with everything going on that. I guess that technically is a negative there, but everything else special teams was a huge plus.
Yeah, and the wind was it wasn't significant down on the field, but Moody's a good kicker, right? And he came up short on a 40 something, or 50-yard one that looked good, or what might have been the 45 one where it looked really good and it just fell short. That kick looked like it was going to be good, and the wind just killed it. Out of nowhere.
Yeah, Moody. I think that might have been a 50-some. I think it was the one that ended the half, maybe.
Yeah, that could have been it. Yep. And
because I actually, in the moment, my immediate brain went to, we should put Codrington back at the end line.
Sure.
Was when they were lining up for that, and he could have caught it. Like he could have tried to return it. It was close. It was in front of the referee. It might have been one I don't know if you remember the Ed Reed one where he had to jump up and grab it at the 109-yard mark. But that was my first thought was hey, are we going to put a guy back deep? Because I don't know if he can kick it that far in these conditions.
Yeah, and he's got a decent leg. On a real good day, he could put it in. But to the point of maybe not being able to get it out of the end zone on your kickoffs, the wind was kind of fighting that. But Cole Bishop, we talked about him getting that ticky-tacky penalty, but also really good. As bad as the coverage units were, forced a fumble on one of them with a really solid hit, and then Virgil coming in to get it. Good on both those guys. Getting limited reps this year, but making the most out of those ones.
Yeah. Switching over to the defense, a lot of really strong performances. Obviously, I think the two that stood out the most to me were Taylor Rapp and Gregory Rousseau. Taylor Rapp, again, with literal point-saving plays. He had the tackle barely clipping Christian McCaffrey when he was on his way to like a 65-yard touchdown. Capped that at a much more manageable run. I think he got it, kept it at only 19 yards, and that would have been like a 65-yard touchdown. And again, punching it out for when Jordan Mason was going to score.
It was
Or use check. Kyle Juszczyk. Yeah. Good call. So both of them, and then Gregory Rousseau had one of those stretches where he dominated multiple plays in a row. I think at one point in a 6-play stretch, he had like 2 tackles for a loss and 2 sacks. And then later on came back with a fumble recovery. Christian Benford with almost a scoop and score, but had like a 50-60-yard return on his fumble return. So just
Von
a lot
Miller
of
had
guys flashing.
Von Miller had a sneaky good game. Didn't result in not a lot on the box score for him, but one of those Groot sacks was Von assist, cleanup sack for Groot.
I won't even be shocked if Groot doesn't end up officially getting credit for that. Like he technically made contact first, but he didn't result in in why am I trying to blank on Brock Purdy? Brock Purdy, he didn't result in Purdy going to the ground. It was Von and I don't remember if it was Ed or Daquan, but it was Von and one other guy who actually brought him to the ground. So I won't be shocked if that one actually gets taken away from Groot and he ends up with 1 sack.
Von almost had another, but like Purdy fell forward a half a yard or so, and they gave him the scramble for a yard.
Right now, they officially don't have anyone graded with the second sack. They show 2 sacks on Purdy, but Gregory Rousseau only has 1 sack in the box score. So right now they haven't given it to anybody yet. So that one will be interesting to see. Maybe get split up as a half sack, something like that.
Could be. Von's probably arguing his case.
For sure. Well, Groot definitely is. Groot's, he cares a lot.
Ed Oliver, you mentioned him in on one of those. I think he was disruptive today. They took away an interception from my guy DeMar Hamlin. I don't still trying to figure out what the illegal contact was, because it looked like on offense there was some illegal contact, on the defense.
George Kittle tried to tackle. I take that back. George Kittle lost his footing in the snow,
ran through,
everybody else, and ran through.
Both Rasul Douglas and DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah, almost took them both down. Which I guess technically did result in illegal contact, but shouldn't. Like, if it's initiated by the offense, that shouldn't count.
Yeah, neither defender did anything wrong there.
Our man Steve in here, Judge said the penalty on the Hamlin interception was on the snow. Yeah, that is factually accurate.
Yeah, super frustrating. Could add another pick mixed in there, but yeah, Benford played well. And honestly, I don't know how well he played, but Matt Milano playing a full game of football needs to be talked about and needs to be. Him and
Terrell Bernard just not letting them run away with what could have been some really big scoring plays. Taylor Rapp saving those, but both Milano and Terrell Bernard several key tackles to be able to cap what could have been big plays. As yes, is 6 or 7 yard runs ideal? No, but in situations like this where the Bills were breaking off long, huge backbreaking plays over and over and over again, they were keeping that within range to then give Rasul Douglas a chance for a TFL, Gregory Rousseau a chance for a TFL. Those different plays were getting blown up. You had the one that was Daquan and Ed Oliver. I don't know who they technically gave the TFL for, but those two combined on another one.
Yeah.
They gave it to Daquan, it looks like. So just multiple plays like that where they were able to, make an impact in the way that they did.
Yep.
All right. You ready to go drive by drive?
Let's do it.
All right. So obviously it kind of started as a bit of a dud because the Niners win the toss and defer. The Bills take the kick. We end up going 3 and out in a really frustrating way because it had a lot of the ingredients. It seemed like they kind of baited us into the Shakir screen on the first one with the look, but then they were ready and there and got it for no gain. Then my favorite thing, we ran the ball on 2nd and 10. Of course, it only got 2 yards, so now it's 3rd and 8. Then we get a false start on 3rd and 8, so that when we picked up 9 yards on 3rd down, it wasn't enough for the first down, but we gained 9 yards on what would have been 3rd and 8. So it's just a very frustrating start to go. And then it looked like the Niners were just going to march down the field. And, I didn't think it was going to turn into that Saints game from 8 years ago, or I don't know how long it wasn't 8 years ago, but what season I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, it was 8
and,
years ago. It was pre-Josh.
and yeah, okay, 8 years ago in the Tyrod season. But it gave me some, I had some of those, 100-yard stare moments of like, oh my God, don't let their run game get rolling here and get it. And we had the bend but don't break,
Yeah.
finish, hold to a field goal. I had that moment where when the Bills offense second drive, the first couple plays, it was a 1-yard run, incomplete pass to Shakir, and now we're sitting there where it looked like initially an incomplete to Shakir, and that it was going to be 2 3-and-outs, and we get the illegal contact penalty on Charvarius Ward that gives us the automatic first down and ends up turning into a 13-play, 70-yard touchdown drive. But like that moment of the second incompletion to Shakir where it looked like we were turning it over for 2 straight 3-and-outs, and we saw that drive of how dangerous San Francisco looked, I had that moment of doubt where I was like, God, we're going to let them get ideas in their head that they can hang in this game, and we're going to regret it. And I'm really glad I didn't have to go down that rabbit hole.
I honestly felt a little bit the opposite with the defense. That first drive was really 2 plays, 3 plays maybe, right? They got the first down. It was like 7 yards, 2 yards. They pick up the first, and because of a good or not a great swing in terms of field position from the punt, they're already at midfield after that first down, and then McCaffrey breaks off a 20-yarder, which hurts. Like that's an explosive that hurts, and then a 10-yarder. Those two felt frustrating. But then it's a 1st and 10. They get 1 yard, pretty much a stuff. McCaffrey gets a swing pass, and in these conditions, Hamlin comes from depth, makes a nice tackle, and it's one. No, it's actually no gain on the swing pass. Stops him for a no gain, and then it isn't necessarily the Bills' defense, but there was that kind of like miss of McCaffrey open, and Bernard gets to him a little bit late, but Brock Purdy just totally misses him. And his inability to throw, like, I just thought, like, hey, if they can just keep him to these situations where, okay, you give up some yardage, but you get him into a 3rd down, I don't think Purdy can beat us in these conditions where he's maybe they get a touchdown drive or two, but he's going to have to pass at some point, and you're going to have to lean on your quarterback to make a play. That didn't look good to me. They hold to the field goal. And again, if you're going to kick field goals in these conditions all day, I'll take that. Like, good luck with that. What really frustrated me, though, is in the start of this next drive, because that first drive, Greg, they're in shotgun the whole time. Even on that 2nd and 10 run for 2 yards, that was in shotgun. Then they come out here, and before the 3rd and 9, where they get the illegal contact and get a free first down to keep the drive going, I think I even tweeted out, like, dude, Brady's got to get physical. Like, they got to get under center and start getting physical, because that is how San Francisco was having some success in these conditions with the slippage going on. I think both teams early were kind of struggling to adjust to the field, right? They warmed up. It wasn't snowing. The field was one way. They get out on the field, it's a different way. You saw guys kind of playing with their cleats, changing out cleats and stuff. Yeah. And I thought, all right, you got to get under center. And I wouldn't be shocked if Sean McDermott got over the intercom there and was like, all right, enough with the shock. Like, we need to establish some physicality in this game. And it felt like right after that illegal contact, they come out with a 1st and 10. Ty Johnson, they're under center, gets 8 yards. And now you're dealing with 2nd and short. And that's the recipe kind of for the rest of this drive. Is then you pick up a couple first downs, you get a 15-yarder to Morse. Like, you start to roll here on this drive. And I feel a little bit better knowing that, okay, like, Brady got cute a little bit for those first 8-9 plays. That might have been what their script was, not realizing that, all the weather guys were predicting, hey, it was going to snow all day, but not during the game. Then it's lake effect snow during the game, and didn't seem like he went away from maybe what the script was and adjusted for the game early on. And it was good to see him adjust mid-drive after you were gifted the illegal contact there.
Yeah, it was, just a really significant swing there to then, like you said, continue on. The 14-yarder to Quentin Morris was a nice play. Couple plays with Josh found a Shakir, then he ran for 7 yards. Then it was Cook for 5, Ty Johnson for 4, Ray Davis for 13, and then Ray Davis for the touchdown. And in that moment, I was one of multiple people, but I certainly was like, oh, maybe this is where it's the Ray Davis game, because he's able to have a little bit stouter approach and like shorter, choppier steps, and maybe the gliding speed for Cook won't be as good of a fit. And we had another drive from the Niners where they looked like they were going to chunk off some yards. McCaffrey for 12.
What's crazy too, Greg, is that was the end of the first. Those like 3 drives.
Crazy
Because
fast.
how everyone was running the ball. You just run the ball and the clock's going.
The first half was like elite East Coast dad time for a night game. Was super excited. The first half was literally under an hour of real clock time.
Yeah.
There was enough passing in the second half that it netted out a little bit and ended up being relatively normal.
Yeah.
Start
My kids
time.
actually got to stay up into the second quarter, which I don't think ever happens for prime time.
Yes, correct. Yeah, almost never. Yeah. And here, unfortunately, we saw the McCaffrey go out. And again, I don't, with how the Bills scored on the Niners defense, I don't think McCaffrey staying in was going to be the difference here, but still a shame to see super talented player trying to come back and make an impact for them this season. You also had the Hamlin interception called back on this drive, but you get it down to where, Kyle Shanahan attempting a 45-yard field goal. I don't know exactly what he was supposed to do. It's 4th and 8. You're the Bills 27. Like 4th and 8 is not a high conversion percentage. They got themselves back in a 2nd and 20 after the Groot. I take that back. Groot got credit for a TFL, but it was McCaffrey just going down because he was injured. Right. So that combination of plays where you had the McCaffrey injury for the -5, then they got to delay a game, and then they did gain 6 yards and then 6 yards, but they still got it back. I don't know what they were supposed to do on 4th and 8, but it certainly didn't look like 45-yard field goal was the best option.
Yeah, I don't know what would be in that scenario, and I think you got to at least try. I'm sure the kickers warmed up and made some. We saw Bass almost make one, right? Like, I don't know that it's the worst option there. I could see if it was like a 4th and 5, you feel a little bit better maybe going for it, but 4th and 8 is pretty long. And again, Purdy didn't look like, I didn't have faith if I'm Shanahan that I could drop back and get that through the air. And yeah, you are running at a pretty good clip there in the first half, almost 7 yards average, I think, in the first half for them. But tough to also just maybe run a play. And you just had Christian McCaffrey go out. I'm sure that was also weighing on them in that moment. There's some stress there. And I'm guessing McCaffrey, since they're reporting here in the chat that it was a PCL, I'm guessing that it was on that wrap tackle that saved that 2nd and 7.
That landed hard on it. Like that might have been
the one that did it.
He tried to run on the last play that we saw, but he actually got injured on the previous carry.
Yeah, that's got to be it. But yeah, this drive should have ended at the interception on the 2nd and 14. So, I mean, getting it to a 4th and 8, and again, continuing to play bend but don't break defense, you could see sort of in the moment that they started, even though McCaffrey taking the 5-yard loss definitely helped the Bills get it to 2nd and 15, and then they had the delay of game after that. That kind of probably, again, a little bit of stress of like, okay, we just lost our best player again. Nobody knows what's going on. We're taking a delay of game. You end up in 2nd and 20. So not necessarily anything the Bills defense did, but they still got the stop. They still made the tackles they needed to get it to the 4th and 8. And yeah, for Shanahan, if I was a 49ers fan, I don't know that I would get on him too much for that one. But I don't know about you, Greg. I'm sure that you have a different one. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up here to take a moment to give my Herr drive of the game, because honestly, dude, anytime there is a 1 play, 65-yard, 10-second drive, I'm I'm going to give West Herr some love and call it a drive of the game. And for this one was really cool. Again, like I said, my kids don't get to stay up into the second quarter all that much. My youngest started to go to bed, and my oldest was down there waiting to go up to bed, and got to see this. And the look on his face when he saw James Cook take off, and then he saw Deion Dawkins come in and roll around in the snow, and Spencer Brown rolling around in the snow, he was giggling. I think he might have fallen in love with football and the Bills tonight, like more than ever. And just, I mean, they said James Cook was almost at 22 miles an hour in the snow. It was like 21.85 miles an hour. I talk a lot about Josh Allen being weatherproof. To see the evolution of James Cook this year from what I thought he was coming out of college to what he is actually showing to be a physical runner who can also do this in weather conditions and outrun everybody. Absolutely fantastic. But like I said, anytime you get a play like this that can explode, and the way this game was going, and the way, obviously, the turn of momentum of them losing McCaffrey, missing a field goal, and then you come out and you blast them with a 65-yard touchdown. I know this wasn't what put the game away, but it felt like all the momentum went to Buffalo. It felt like this was going to be the start of a real party of a night, and it ended up being a big party of the night. So this is my West Herr drive of the game, and I know we'll have more, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But West Herr, the biggest car dealership in all of Western New York, this is my drive of the game.
So we can actually leave it up because it's going to go right into mine. The Bills come back out. Their defense plays very well. Jordan Mason does break off a big run right at the beginning, but now the defense really starts to get in position a bit more. You get the Gregory Rousseau sack. They punt it down to the 3-yard line. And it seems like, field position is going to be a big piece here. The Bills are up 14-3, but hey, if they can pin them deep or get a turnover or a safety or something like that, they maybe get themselves back into this game. And instead, the Bills go on a 9-play, 97-yard touchdown drive that was as backbreaking as you can get. 2 minutes and 50 seconds. They drive down the field, every single play being a positive contributor. Here in going down, you have just a 2-yard run at first, but then you get the play action where Josh hits Dawson Knox for the 39-yarder. Then you get James Cook breaking one off for 18, where for a second it looked like he was going to go and score again, and just nobody be able to keep up with him to the outside. Then right back to him for 10 more. You got the pass to Cooper for 7 yards, where they actually showed. I almost felt like it was them kind of threatening the Niners of, hey, if you're going to play off like that because you're afraid of somebody getting beat on a double move, that will take the free yards, and just kind of testing them to come back up. But then Josh swings it out to Cook for 13 yards, runs for another, and then here is where Josh zips it to Matt Collins in the corner as he kind of boxes out on the defender for the touchdown. 9 plays, 97 yards in under 3 minutes in just an unbelievably efficient, dominant offense. And now it's 21-3, and it feels like the party's really beginning.
Yeah, honestly, I love this one. And what I like most about this is everybody knows, if you follow me on the internet, I'm a big fan of the double dip. I know that you have some data that says I'm wrong about the double dip. I don't care. I'm just ignoring that data because I do love a good double dip. And we talked about it. San Francisco deferred, getting themselves in a position to get the double dip. The Bills get the ball here with 3 minutes, 13 seconds left in the half, pinned in their own territory. And I think I must have put it out that all I really wanted to see, yes, points would be great. I always want to end every drive in points, but I'm in like a 4-minute offensive mindset of hey, I want to get into a range to have a shot at points. But what I really don't want is for San Francisco to get the ball back and be able to put together an activated double dip, right? Because it's 14-3. If you go 3 and out in this situation, pin deep and have to punt it back to them, they're going to get good field position. All they have to do, we saw it for the Bills, get a couple runs, these runs that Taylor Rapp stopped. If one of those breaks, they're back in this game and getting the ball at half. And that makes this an entirely different football game where the Bills are starting to dominate this thing. And so then to go 97 yards and score and remove the double dip, because they were only left with 30 seconds left by the time they got the ball, you go up 21-3. They don't have a chance to respond before the half. that takes away all the leverage of deferring and getting the double dip opportunity. They don't get to steal that possession. It's absolutely crucial in a game like this to not allowing them to get this to be a one-score game. So on top of just ending the half on a positive note, going 97-yard drive, all that stuff's fantastic. Josh throwing it to Hollins. Eliminating the double dip to me was just the cherry on top of this type of drive, and just really buried San Francisco. And how deflating does it have to be to go into half, a team from California getting beat up in the snow, and they go down and put a drive like this together to end the half and just punch it right in the mouth.
And I think the combination, being able to have the defense hold up at the end,
Yeah.
not giving up anything. That's where they did try the 55-yarder. They came short. After they only had a couple seconds to run a handful of plays there towards the end. But they did get themselves down in position. That's the first time we saw one of Debo's bigger returns.
Yep.
But held them into a position where they had to try a crazy long field goal in those conditions. They miss. You come out, it looks like they're going to actually get a little something going because they had actually their first success passing the ball. They got a nice play to Juwan Jennings. They're moving the ball a little bit. It looked like they're about to go in for a touchdown because Debo took a 60-yard kick return here to open the second half.
Yeah.
And that's where Taylor Rapp punched it out from Kyle Juszczyk. Christian Benford picked it up, ran it back 43 yards. And even then, it was a 3-and-out by the Bills offense. So it felt like, hey, we're going to let them hang around here. They just got a really big return. Everything, we're still in full control here, but hey, let's kind of put this away. And the defense has a huge drive here where they can't even try to go for it because they get no yards, incompletions. Quentin Jefferson has a really big stuff here of Jordan Mason. You pin them back at their own 6 and force them to punt to the Bills. And now they kind of put the nail in the coffin. 6 plays, 44 yards, punch it in for a touchdown here. And this one ends with the crazy play. And you get the catch to Amari Cooper, the lateral to Josh Allen, the Superman dive into the end zone. And now it literally is a party on social media, in the Discord channel, at the stadium, in houses around Buffalo, 28-3, and just a dominant situation.
Yeah, what I don't want to get lost in that drive is on a 4th and 2, Sean McDermott's balls again, you're up, so it's not huge balls, but he could have easily gone for a field goal or punted. And this, I forget exactly where they were at in the 4th and 2, but he goes for it. It's a smart idea.
They're at the 25, so I think it was smart because you're talking about like a 43, 44-yard field goal. Sure. You've seen some other tough ones. You're also in a position where when you're up 21-3, 24-3 is not really a difference. Being up 18 and being up 21 is not really a difference. You're up the same 3 scores. So analytically, this was the right decision to do it. But in those conditions, it would have been super easy for him to convince himself that, we still got to play it safe. And instead he goes for it. And Shakir is wide open for 18 yards on that play.
Yeah, so the cool, awesome Allen touchdown and pictures that we're going to see all week doesn't happen unless they go for it and Shakir gets that play and sets them up for it, which is fantastic. So I just don't want that to get lost in the awesome, crazy play that then followed that, because it was a great play in these types of conditions where we saw other guys making not being able to make plays like that and getting drops, and Shakir had a couple in this game. And so for him to still be productive and part of something cool, I want to make sure that we shout that out. And then I demanded immediately after that, play Mr. Brightside, go out and play Mr. Brightside, and they did.
Yeah, it's almost exactly at the time that you commanded it to be.
You have to.
The Niners did come back, put together their only scoring drive of the game here. It was mostly behind a pretty big play to Juwan Jennings to get down there. And then I thought that Tarico and Collinsworth did a good job kind of explaining. They did a good job with the motion with Garendo to get him up to full speed. And then it was kind of tough to change direction because he was already going full speed as he came across there. They probably should have kind of gotten that strategy going earlier in the game with some of the movement, but they got a score there. The Bills traded a 3-and-out with a fumble, going back and forth. The Bills had their own 3-and-out, solid punt, but then the Niners started running a couple plays, and Purdy technically got sacked, but really just kind of lost the ball as he went back to pass, kind of flopped it up in the air. Rousseau falls on it, and now the Bills are only 25 yards out. They run the ball with Cook, get a nice pass again to Dawson Knox on play action, and then Josh runs it in for the history trifecta of throwing, catching, and running in a touchdown all in the same play. And now it's 35-10. They take Josh Allen out of the game because the 49ers fumbled the ensuing kickoff literally immediately. And I think that confluence of events where up 25 technically isn't always put the backups in, but the fact that they just got another turnover and got the ball back meant there was such a low risk that having Mitch Trubisky, and this was also Cedric Van Panagrager, multiple backups coming into the game with 12 minutes and 30 seconds left is wild. Like, that's a really, really long time in NFL time. And that's how dominant they were today. They ended up going down, they missed a field goal. There was a good kick. Tyler Bass did a nice job. It was 49-yard field goal. He kicked it probably close to 60 yards because it was easily into the net and just barely wide left. So it was a really well executed kick in those conditions. And then actually one of the more impressive things were they ended the game on an 11-play, 7-minute and 55-second drive where they just drained the clock and the Niners couldn't do anything about it. And they converted 4 first downs on that drive, just milking clock the entire time against the 49ers will.
I didn't even watch. I was just on Instagram and tweeting memes and talking shit to people, talking crap to people that I know that are Niners fans and all the other AFC East fans. So I didn't even care about the remainder of that. One good one I did, I went to a friend's house for Thanksgiving. We got into an argument about domes and who should pay for domes and why the Bills not. I don't care if the Bills need a dome or not. And in like the first series, he messaged me, texted our group chat, and was like, the Bills should have built the dome. Because it wasn't going well. And then after Allen scores that running touchdown to go up 35-10, I just texted back, F your dome. I don't care. I don't even care. We got Josh Allen, man. Like, he can do all the things. And he proved it here tonight. And we got to hear Mr. Brightside. We got to get a 5th AFC East division championship. Things are good right now, Gregory. Yeah. Things are very good.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. We'll talk as we get further in here. Now we can start to play around a little bit more with looking at seeding. The Bills have now formally clinched the division. Yep. They've won their 5th straight division. They will host a playoff game for the 5th straight year. Hopefully we win multiple playoff games. I'd love to win 3 or 4 of those games. That'd be lovely. But with the season, there was a couple different comments earlier about, credit to Brandon Beane. We've credited Sean McDermott, Joe Brady, being able to be in a position where the Bills have $63 million in dead cap hits this year. So you're talking about, like 25% to 20% plus of our available assets are locked up in players who aren't playing for the team. And to have young players, rookies from this draft class and the last 2 or 3 draft classes all contributing with solid depth. Like, we've had a myriad of injuries and had other guys step in, and whether it's smaller roles like Zach Davidson being able to take some snaps, Cam Lewis coming in as a 3rd safety, Dorian Williams stepping in as a linebacker, having to bring back depth defensive tackles like Quentin Jefferson, and when asked, Javon Solomon just playing special teams. And
how important has Alec Anderson been?
Alec Anderson, they talked about the Bills run more 6th offensive lineman jumbo sets than any other team. When Ryan Vandermark had to play, he played well and didn't give up pressures. That kind of roster building in depth has been really, really impressive to take a season that, obviously tons of people were picking the Dolphins and the Jets to win the division. And even the people who said that, hey, yeah, they're going to be close, the Bills will still win, but it's going to be really, really tight. That's where I was. Like, I still thought the Bills were going to win the division with my simple logic of we have Josh Allen and you don't. But I didn't think it was going to be December 1st. We just clinched the division in week 13. There's 5 weeks left to play. We have 3 division games left to play, and we just locked up the division. This is right up there with the earliest the Patriots ever locked up the division.
Yeah, I think Siciliano had tweeted out earlier in the week that it's the first time in 15 years that a team has clinched their division this early.
Someone
in the
in
season.
here said 19 years, so yeah, somewhere in
Okay.
that range of that kind of time frame.
Crazy.
In a season where barely anybody picked us to win it, to then win it by that much is really, really crazy.
Another thing I did put out like a TikTok video early in the week saying like this is going to happen, right? Like Miami wasn't going to go up to Green Bay in those conditions with the team, with how good Green Bay has been looking. And I saw the spread. It was like a 3.5 point spread in favor of Green Bay, and I was like, man, and then seeing this matchup and what I expected to happen in this matchup, it just seemed like it was lining up for this weekend to be the weekend, and everybody took care of their business, and so awesome. It's great that Miami season's over. I do kind of wish, Greg, the petty in me wishes that like the Jets and Patriots would win just enough games to be on the outside, like into the teens in picks. That would be more fun.
I thought the Patriots were going to. Both teams
I did too. I
had
thought both
those.
teams, yeah.
They had those wins in hand, but they lost because they're bad teams, and that's
Yeah.
what bad teams do. They lose.
Yeah.
But yeah, another week where the Bills are the only team in the division to win a game.
You could have just stopped at the only team that the Bills are.
Yeah, the only team. Bills are the only team. It's been a fantastic ride. I'm excited. There's 5 more games left. We've got 2 more good tests coming up here, with games at Los Angeles against the Rams, and then in Detroit again, as brought up earlier. Literally could be a potential Super Bowl preview.
Yeah.
Having that kind of excitement. Now we're going to be in a stretch where we'll be watching other teams' games to see how the seeding goes. We'll do breakdowns of that, all kinds of different things. But before we start looking into the future, any final thoughts on this game, and how fun tonight was?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm always going to be a fan of football being played in the elements. I thought tonight was beautiful. I thought that it adds to the lore that is Buffalo Bills football, Northeast football. And to me, I get it. Like Josh Allen wants a dome, perfect conditions, all this stuff. You'll get that in every Super Bowl. If the Bills get to Super Bowl, it won't be played in Buffalo. But I do think you have to have these types of games. You look at all these Northeast teams, like weather stinks in Baltimore, weather stinks in Kansas City. Like no matter where you go, whether it's Buffalo or elsewhere, you're going to have to be able to play in these conditions. And the Bills prove that they can. And I think that's going to benefit this type of game that they had is going to benefit them in January when they play other good teams with other good skill players in similar type situations, wherever it may be. And how much fun is it to just see fans throwing snow and players doing snow angels? Like that stuff never gets old to me, Greg. And I enjoyed every minute of it tonight.
100%. It's exactly what we want to happen here, and I we'll see what the path is for the playoffs and who they need to beat. There are no bad teams.
No.
The AFC is pretty stacked. There's a lot of good teams, good defenses, good teams able to, make impactful plays that we're going to have to play well to be able to do this. But seeing what they're capable of, seeing them beat the Chiefs and the 49ers in back-to-back games and dominate the 49ers in the way that they did. The sky's the limit. This team is capable of beating every team in the NFL. We shouldn't be afraid of any team. There are good teams that we need to take very seriously. It'll be hard to beat Kansas City again. It'll be hard to beat Baltimore. It'll be incredibly hard to beat Detroit. Even the Steelers, we see the way they pull out games, what the Texans are capable of. There's no easy gimme games here. But being now in the position that we are, it's really, really fun to be able to see it come together this way in a season that had very managed expectations, and now it's turned into one of the most dominant division clinching situations in league history. That's a fun turn of events.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, those problems of matchups, those are future Aaron and
Yeah.
Greg problems that we have to deal with. In the now, I'm gonna just savor all these moments until we get there and have to deal with those problems. I do think this conference is going to come to my kind of hot take is I think the Chiefs got 2 more losses in them, and I don't know that the
Mm,
Bills do. I think the Bills got 1
would be
loss. As
pretty
long,
cool if it had to come through Buffalo.
yeah, I'm not going to sleep on those division games. We've seen some wacky division games here this year, but I think the Bills are really good. I could see them losing to the Lions. I can't, if they drop these other ones, it'll be them beating themselves up in some of these games and playing really sloppy. And so I think this conference is going to come down. I think all the teams we've been talking about, like, will teams start to rest in certain weeks? That was a conversation we had with Kent Swanson if they won that game. Now I think both these teams are going to have to play right up to the end here,
The
with
bye is
it
going to
only really
matter.
being a half game in reality, with the Bills having the tiebreaker.
Yeah, that bye is going to end up being huge because you're actually going to get a legit rest for one of the teams and then get those home games the rest of the way. So getting next week is a big one where you're going to have the Chiefs playing the Los Angeles Chargers, who are a good, tough team capable of winning that game. That's going to be a fun one next week on Sunday Night Football to
Yep.
be able to root for it.
And the
But
Bills
as
have a
the
test in not being too looking ahead, right?
yes,
Like
yeah,
to a
got
big
to
to
take the Rams
everyone's going to talk
seriously.
about the
You
Super Bowl
cannot look ahead
matchup.
to
Yeah.
Detroit.
Yeah.
Got to take the Rams seriously. Well, like I said, if we can get to the final 3 games for the Bills being Patriots, Jets, Patriots, the Chiefs' final 3 games are Texans, Steelers, Broncos. That is a significant difference in the caliber of teams that those teams are finishing. The Chiefs have had a much easier stretch in other parts of the schedule, but those finishing ones, Chargers, Browns, Texans, Steelers, Broncos, we just need one, just one or
That's it.
two in there. If we get 2, that would be lovely. I really, really would like to host those games in Buffalo.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, this has been fantastic. Everybody's in here with us. Thank you, guys. This is a ton of fun. The chat was fantastic. You guys are awesome. Some really good 49ers fans jumping in here with us, some kind comments, some Detroit fans jumping in here. Really great chat. Make sure you press that like button on the way out. Give us a like, give us a rating, give us a review wherever you're listening. Leave us a comment in the comments. That's the best way to be able to help today. That's the way word of mouth works on the internet, is leave a comment there. Just help the algorithm. Let other people know that you enjoy listening to us here. If you want to hang out with us more, come join us. Join cover1.net/onepass. You
Yeah.
can come hang out in the Discord channel. It's fantastic. It's awesome during game days, but really, really great all the time during the week, finding out the latest things going on. Eric drops film nuggets in there, all kinds of other cool things. Really, really great community that we're proud of what we built there. But on behalf of the team here at Cover One, our fantastic producer, Chris Kepner, and my co-host, Aaron Quinn, I'm Greg Tompsett. You've listened to the Cover One Buffalo podcast, and we are